my beautiful friends, my name is Anna. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm bringing you another delicious recipe. We're making FUFU de Plátano. This is a very traditional Cuban side dish. Is plantains mashed with a whole lot of goodies. This is pretty famous throughout the Caribbean. I know Puerto Ricans have mofongo, Dominicans have mango. All kind of similar, but they do have their different variations. I know the Puerto Ricans, they fry their plantains and then they mash them. Today we're boiling that plantains before we mash them. We're going to be making it with empanadas, which is pretty much like crispy pork rinds, but it's mostly the meat and a little bit of the fat. It's just gonna be so delicious, trust me on this. So for the ingredients, you're going to need your plantains. As you can see, I have 4 plantains, and one of them it's a little more ripe than the rest, and that is because I like to add a plantain that's a little more ripe. You don't want it to be fully ripe. I find that it just provides a little more of a little more interesting flavor, a little more of a contrast. But you can use all green plantains. Make sure you don't use all ripe because it just won't be fufu. I like to use red onion for a little more of pop of color. You can use pretty much any type of onion except sweet onion. Lots and lots of garlic, lime juice, salt, and in here I have my pork belly. So you can see this pork belly has the skin. I am going to remove that because empanadas don't have pork, the pork skin. Chicharrones do have the pork skin, but we're not making that today. So I am going to show you how we cut everything. You're also going to need some of the lard. If you don't want to use lard, you can use some oil instead, but trust me, the lard makes this so good. And I only make this like pretty much once in a blue moon because it's not the healthiest. I mean, it is pretty healthy if you don't add none of like the pork lard and the pork meat and all that stuff. It's quite a healthy side dish, but listen, when I make it, I want to make it right. So I just rather not make it very often so I can really enjoy it how it's supposed to. In here I have a pot with some water. A lot of water to cover the plantains. What? I forgot to wash my plantains. Wait, I'll be right back. My plantains are washed. So you want to remove the ends and then we're just going to cut it. Oops, dang it. I forgot to remove the sticker. Okay, so you want to cut it into 4 pieces, skin and all, and you want to add it to your water. So you just want to remove the tip and cut this. Well, this one's pretty big, so I'm going to cut it into 5. Now we're going to have to add a little bit of lime juice to the water. Okay, just like so. Okay, and we're going to add a touch of salt, just like you would with potatoes. This is going to obviously season the inside of the plantain so it's a little bit yummier. Okay, just mix it in. I do it with my hands because the water's cold. So you want to turn on your stove to medium, and now you're going to let the plantains boil because you want the plantains to soften. This is going to take about 20 to 25 minutes. Let's go ahead and work on our empanadas. So you can see the pork belly, at least the one that I bought, comes with the skin. So you want to remove, I just like to cut it off, because we don't need this, right? And then you're gonna cut your meat into pieces. You don't wanna cut it too small because this is going to render a lot of fat. So if you cut it too small, you're gonna end up with pretty much nothing. So you wanna have about something that's this size. So you can see, look, small little cubes. It's important you don't try to cut off any of the fat. You're gonna need that fat to cook the actual meat, so you definitely don't want to cut it off. I have my skillet. Now I'm going to add the meat to the skillet on medium heat. You don't want to add any oil whatsoever because you're gonna see this renders so much fat. I'm going to season it with a little bit of salt, just salt. You really don't season it with anything else. I'm gonna give it a quick stir, just like so. And I'm going to add a little bit more salt. Okay, now that it's seasoned, we let it do its thing. So while the empanaditas are cooking, I'm going to slice my onion. I like it thinly sliced, and I'm also going to mash my garlic using my mortar pesto. If you don't have one of these, don't worry. Just mince your garlic very, very well. You can also grate it. I would suggest using a little bit less garlic if you are planning on grating it. I'm gonna grab my splatter guard and I'm gonna put it on top so it doesn't splatter too much. I'm going to season, well, not season, just add a little bit of salt to my garlic. Now I'm going to mash. Okay, garlic is looking great. So you can see you want some sort of kind of like a paste. This is done. Let me put that aside, and I'm going to thinly slice my onion. My empanadas are looking great. I hope you can see. Look how golden they are. Please be careful. They do splatter quite a lot. I have my splatter guard ready to go because they do splatter, but look how much fat they have rendered. These guys are more than ready. They look so crispy. Okay, so we turn off the heat. I'm going to drain them to my paper towel lined plate. They're nice and crispy. I hope you guys can hear. Look how crispy they are. Now I am going to get rid of some of this fat because we don't need it all, but I'm going to make the sofrito in the same skillet. So let me just want to try. I have to make sure they're good. Perfect. You're going to need about 1/4 cups of lard. Or like I said, if you're not comfortable with using lard, just use a little bit of oil. You're going to add in your onions and your garlic. I want to make sure I grab all of my garlic. Now we're going to cook this just until the onions are tender. It smells so good in here. It smells like garlic and onion. Okay. Let me let that cook for about 3 minutes and then we can move on. We are ready to mash our plantains. Mine were cooking for 40 minutes. They took a little bit longer than I thought. Sometimes that happens, obviously. I have my sofrito here ready to go, so you can see. Look at the onion and the garlic. Beautiful. So we're gonna need that in just a second. That cooks for just like 5 minutes. I did reserve some of that cooking water because it has some of the plantain kind of starch in it, and it helps it blend a lot easier. So you want to grab a fork and you want to very carefully peel your plantain. So you grab it and you kind of like break it apart, just like so. The skin should be nice and soft. So you can see I've added all of my peeled plantains into a large bowl. I'm going to add a touch of water, and now you can mash it with pretty much anything you want. This is just how I've always done it. This is just how I've seen everyone do it in my family. So you grab a cup and you pretty much mash. You can do a potato masher if you want. Add a tiny bit more water as you need it. I like mine, some people like theirs a little drier. I like mine a little like more wet, like a little creamier, I should say. This is not hard, but you do need a little bit of elbow grease, and you also need a little bit of patience. I need a tiny bit more water, so I like to add a little bit of water at a time as I go. Now let's add most of our onion. I like to leave a tiny bit behind. This is still a little too dry, so we're gonna add a splash more of that water and we're gonna mix. Okay, it's a little too chunky still for my liking, so I'm gonna mash it a little bit more. This looks pretty good. I've been mashing for like 5 minutes, but I've finally reached my desired consistency. So you can see it's a bit creamier. It's kind of like a thicker mashed potato. I'm going to add about half of my empellitas. I'm gonna mix that in very well. And this is pretty much what you're gonna end up with. So you can see it's kind of chunky, but it's still pretty creamy. This is the exact consistency that I like. We are ready to serve it. I have a plate. I'm gonna transfer all of this goodiness onto my plate. Oh, maybe I should have grabbed a bigger plate. Now I'm going to add the rest of my onion and garlic right on top. Before I forget, I did season mine with a little more salt because you need to add plenty of salt so it tastes good. You top it with your empellitas, just like so. Okay, we add some cilantro right on top, and there you have it, your FUFU de Plátano. Doesn't it look beautiful? And it tastes even better. I'm gonna grab, well, let me grab some from this bowl right here, because I'm gonna take a picture of that and I don't want it to look ugly. Beautiful. So creamy, so garlicky. I love that you can slightly taste the sweet plantain that we added. So delicious. So I hope you guys enjoy this recipe. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Remember, written recipe on my website. You can find a link to it in the description box, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.